you can look at our revenue and our spending on a graph, and you can see that our revenue's going up and our expenses are going up. But something that's really important for us to also look at is that we have to look at also population growth and inflation. So if you look, for example, just from 2020, we've experienced 24% in inflation. We've also grown over 12% in our state. So when you adjust the state spending, or when you adjust our expenses per capita, adjusted for inflation, you'll see that our line for the state spending is actually almost flat. So in the last 20 years, so we went to the budget office and we asked them, we said, can you give us the expenses for the last 20 years, adjusted per capita and for inflation? And when we did that, we noted that in the last 20 years, the state expenditures have only gone up 0.4% per year. So to put that into I think that's important that we put that into context, because people say, is this a spending problem? Well, if you look at it, you look at the growth that we've experienced, the inflation that we've had, but we've only grown 0.4% per year. And then you also think of all the programs that we're now funding. In 2018, Medicaid expansion was passed by our population, which went into effect in 2020. We have TECM funds, which are spending for transportation and education. You also have Launch and other programs that we are funding in our state. And so I think it's important that when we look at spending, that we adjust those numbers for population growth and also for inflation in our state. And I think that gives us a better picture of what's happening. Now on the revenue side of that, as Senator Lent talked about, last year we gave tax cuts of $453 million and an additional $155 million in the Big Beautiful, conforming to the Big Beautiful Bill. So that's a total of $608 million that we gave in tax cuts, which we all want more money in our pockets, but it's also important to understand that as we go through this, as a result of our revenue dropping, that where does that come from? That comes from cuts to agencies, and that also comes in areas that we're not funding. So this year in the proposed budgets, there's $434 million that we're not funding in things that we've recently funded. This is $300 million in transportation. This is $10 million for DEQ. This is funding for our fires, and there's some other things. So we have to look at how do those affect us. So when we're cutting costs to our agencies and when we're not funding things that we have funded in the past, where do those costs go? Do they just go away? Well, if they do, then we didn't need them. But if we're cutting things that don't go away, those merely get shifted to our local communities. And so it's not like if you pay $10 here, it's still going to cost you more. We're still going to be paying for it in our property taxes and in our local communities. So it's not a true cut if we're just shifting that cost to other people.
Thank you.